Hey there, let's have a discussion here about why people can't seem to get ahead. And it has to do with the truth about money. And there's a lot of videos out there about this subject, and I want to dispel some of the things, as I usually do in my videos. So I'm also typically, as I do, going to give you a little background and then dispel those myths and cut through a lot of the other information out there on this subject and get to the gist of it. So one of the pleasures I've had in life is living abroad. We lived in South America and Ecuador for 8 years, and somebody recently asked me, they said, we've watched a lot of your older videos, and what are your challenges now? And we said, well, just go watch the videos because nothing much has changed. But I wanted to say that one of the very pleasing things and enjoyable parts of being abroad was meeting the different expats when we used to help them get settled in their new country at the time. And I liked hearing their stories, which ties in with what we're discussing today about money, how this particular couple said that in the 50s they could just get a job, and with just that one job they were able to pay all their bills, including rent, and then have money left over and savings for investments and this and the other, and only one person had to work in the home. And I really enjoyed hearing that from an actual person. And it's like the median income in 1950 was $3,000 a year. And the median price of a home was like $7,350, which was, the income was about 40% of the value of a home, which means that the first year your income was 40% of the value of a home. The second year you would have been at 80%. So in 2.5 years, you've literally earned, irrespective, without regard to tax rates and things like that, which back then were also part of the conversation also. Point being, in 2.5 years, your income equaled the median value of a home. Fast forward to 2020, and the median income is $44,225 for a single person, and the median home value is $428,700. So that's a 10x. We've come all the way to a 10x. We now need 10 years worth of income just to equal the median home value. Now, here's an interesting tidbit. Traveling around and going local has put me in front of situations that are just the kind of experience that stays in your mind and doesn't leave. Like, I've seen these really antiquated scales. Stay with me, this is part of the conversation, it fits in. We've seen in some of these old countries people still using these really, if you've never seen these old antiquated scales, I went into this store, looked like it was from the 1800s. When you walk into the store, the way it's set up, there's no technology anywhere. You know, it's just totally analog. and then they've got this scale on the counter, right? And you want like 10 kilos of salt, and they're putting it on the scale. And if you've never seen the scale is not what we know a scale to be today. Those are technological scales. The antiquated scales didn't just give you a weight. You didn't just put the thing on there and it gives you a weight. You had two sides. This is really important. Two sides to the scale, to where if you wanted 10 kilo bag of salt, you had a 10 kilo weight that you put on one side, and then you put the 10 kilo bag of salt on the other side, so that it did a balancing act. And matter of fact, the word for scale in Spanish is bilancio, which is balance. The Latin word for scale is balance. And so we have a balance situation, is how we got to know that we were getting. And so when we read that God hates uneven weights and balances, that puts it into perspective, because in a balancing situation, when the weight on the right side is equal to or even to the weight of the salt on the other side, then you know you're getting what you're paying for. You put the 10-kilo weight on one side, it's a big huge piece of iron, and on the other side is the 10-kilo bag of salt, and it balances out, and it does a little balancing like a pH scale, to where when it's in the middle you've got an exact balance, which means you're getting your weight. So an uneven weight and balance, i.e. scale, is a form of cheating. You're not getting the weight that you're purchasing. It's fraud. Now, having just discussed what has happened to the money, because a lot of people are hearing all over the internet that the reason you don't get ahead is that you just don't work hard enough. You know, you just haven't worked long enough. And you listen to these people that started getting into real estate, and it's been 35 years later, and now they're gazillionaires. And, you know, it's all your fault. Why you're stupid, you know. Now there are things that we shouldn't be doing and things that we should be doing. We should be our own bosses. We should have our own business. We should have our own real estate. But they don't go far enough. You know, when you sell your time for money, you're receiving an uneven exchange for your time. A lot of times they'll tell you, you know, don't sell your time for money, and it's because your earnings are capped. And that's all true, but there's more to it than that. Your earnings aren't just capped. Even if your earnings go up, you still aren't keeping up because, well, first let me back up a little bit here. The Romans in ancient Rome of 500 BC figured out, back then, their money was either they started out with wood and then they ended up with the metals. Now, they figured out that they could shave off a little bit off of the coins over a period of time and people wouldn't notice. So you get a certain size of silver coin, and you're supposed to be getting, you know, an ounce, and it's worth this much salt or whatever. But they would, little by little, shave a little bit off the coin. Amazingly, it's the Chinese that invented the paper money, but it wouldn't have existed without the banking system. Rome fell, and all of these things were happening. There were wars, and there was this uneven weights and balances, a manipulation of the money where they were devaluing the money in their own way. But over a millennia later, the Chinese came up with paper money, and at that point it became even easier to manipulate the money supply. So it was a dream come true. When they came up with paper, why, it was a lot easier than shaving off little bits of metal off the coins, because you had to be careful because people could tell the coins would get smaller and smaller. But over a period of time, people might think, well, the coins are getting old, they're getting worn. You ever seen an old coin that looks all worn on the edges? You know, and so with paper, that's not what's happening. It happens without you really noticing it on the paper. The paper looks the same, but it doesn't buy you as much. And using the strategy of incrementalism, where they just do it over a long period of time, little by little, your money it buys less and less and less. And so people get confused as to why their life has become so complicated, and they don't realize it's because the foundational principle here is that we as a people lost sight of what the true balance and what the true picture of balance looks like. So can you imagine that? I mean, having to work 10 times as long, actually 5 times as long, to have the same purchasing power over a period of a couple of generations. But that same period of couple of generations is when people typically retire. And yeah, there are things you can do, like invest in things that go up with inflation. And I said I was going to dispel some of the things that are out there on the internet on this subject, because the common denominator of what people are telling us is that, well, you're just not making enough money. You're just lazy. You're just stupid. You're just this, you're just that. You just need to go out and, oh, you go ahead and follow Dave Ramsey and don't be in debt. Why, a smart person uses debt to his advantage and goes into debt and buys up as much real estate, cash flowing real estate as they can. You know who's guilty of this, right? But yet, this all would sound great pre-2020, but post-2020, we have learned a lot. We have come to understand that, and it's nothing new. I mean, trusting in ancient wisdom is what it comes down to. And when it says that the borrower is a slave to the lender, and somebody is sitting there telling you, no, you're stupid. Why, I'm so rich, and I'm rich because of debt. And then 2020 rolls around, we understand that there are different dimensions. Slavery is slavery, but how it comes about during different ages throughout history may be somewhat different, but the result is the same. You don't have control of your life. And what they're telling us is that we have to trust the banking system, the very same system that gave us paper money and a stealthier way to steal our purchasing power. We are being asked to trust the very same system that has done that throughout the ages and is busy doing that right now to our lives and ushering in an age of slavery that is unprecedented, and where it won't matter what the color of your skin is, or what culture you're from, or what you believe God's name is, or whether there's even a God, period. It won't matter. We'll all be enslaved because we have closed our eyes to the true nature of proper weights and balances and right and wrong and good and evil. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If there was anything else I could have added to the video, let me know, but I'm sure I could have talked for 3 hours. Thanks for coming to the channel. Have a wonderful day.